Most people picture Iran from what they see in the news. You know, it's front page of every newspaper you open, and it's pretty confronting what's going on. What is something that you wish people understood about your home country and Persian culture?
The main thing is that the people of Iran are not represented by the people that rule us in government. We are a people that love poetry. We are a people that love education. We are a people with very strong family values. Um, and I think that doesn't get communicated in the media. It's especially hard getting married and not knowing if my family will come, especially after many years of waiting to be married and continually trying to get in touch with them and invite them.
Yeah.
And not getting a response back.
When was the last time you heard from them?
A few months ago.
Yeah, that's hard.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cry. It just came out of nowhere.
Welcome to Inside the Shoulder. I'm Kenneth Cutbush, and today I'm joined by Violet Sattari. Violet was born in Iran. She moved to Malaysia with her parents when she was 8 years old, not speaking a word of English. She came out the other side with an American accent and eventually a medical degree from Melbourne University. She's now a medical registrar at Ipswich Hospital on the physician training program, well on the way to becoming a physician, and she spent the last 6 years coaching others into the very career that she's pursuing. She speaks fluent Farsi, delivers health education to Iranian Australian people in their community, in their own language, and is about to get married. Violet, welcome to Inside the Shoulder.
Thanks, Ken. It's good to be here.
Violet, what was it like as an 8-year-old getting off the plane in Malaysia, speaking Persian and not a word of English or certainly not Malay? What was that like?
It was certainly confronting and a very different life compared to what I was used to. My life and childhood in Iran was filled with a lot of relatives and family members. I had grandparents on both sides. I had uncles, aunties, both my parents there, and life in Malaysia was very different. I think I was too young to really be cognizant of all of the differences, but the main thing I noticed was that there was suddenly no more family around apart from my mom and my brother. My dad was around, but he worked overseas a lot of the time. And yeah, I think as a child, I felt the isolation and not speaking the language there for a long time, or at least for a year. I really felt it, and it was a big change for such a young child to go through.
Was there a moment when you realized that life had completely changed?
I remember listening to my parents talking about the fact that we're going to be leaving Iran forever. I was overhearing them talking about it with their own parents, and I went into the room and I questioned them, and they were a bit taken aback by the fact that I was hearing them talk about it. And I think that was the first moment that it clicked to me that we were going to go and not come back. Um, Apart from that, it's all a bit of a blur because I was just such a young child. Yeah.
And you really have never been back, haven't you?
I went back once when I was 9 years old, just for a short trip with my mom, and since then I've never been back.
Things have changed a lot in Iran since then.
Yeah, it's very sad times and it's very challenging, especially having family over there still and not being able to hear back from them. Yeah, it's difficult times.
Yeah, that must be hard.
Yeah, it is.
Do you find yourself worrying about them back there in Iran right now?
I do. I do. I have a set of grandparents there. I have a young cousin there. It's especially hard. getting married and not knowing if my family will come, especially after many years of waiting to be married and continually trying to get in touch with them and invite them
Yeah.
and not getting a response back.
When was the last time you heard from them?
A few months ago.
Yeah, that's hard.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cry. It just came out of nowhere.
Do you think they'd be proud of you?
I know they are. They tell me all the time.
Well, hopefully they make it.
I hope so too.
Tell me, what was life like in Malaysia as an 8-year-old?
Really great, actually. Malaysia was a really good place for a little kid to grow up in. It's not as good as Australia is in terms of career and education opportunities, but I remember living in a big apartment complex because that's how it is in Malaysia. Everyone lives in really big apartment complexes. And it's overrun by other little kids and other families, and they're like their own little communities. They have playgrounds, pools, little shops, gyms, all in the apartment complex. And I remember I had a lot of little friends that I would play with in the playground after school, to the point where my mom would have to come downstairs and drag me back to the house at nighttime and tell me to stop playing. And once I learned English, I really liked going to school. So I have good memories of Malaysia. I think it was a really great place to be in for 3 years.
How long did it take you to learn English?
A few months, up to a year, I would say, to become completely fluent. And I started from absolutely zero. I remember the first word I learned was hello, and the second word I learned was sorry. So I would go into the supermarket and I would intentionally bump into random people just to be able to say sorry.
Because you're so proud of being able to
Yeah,
say sorry.
because I was so proud of being able to say sorry. And I went to an English teaching school for a couple of months just to be able to learn before I started going to school, because I had literally no idea how to speak. And I watched some educational videos and my parents would quiz me on it often. So that was a big feature in our house for a few months. And then by the end of the year, I was fully fluent and rising up the ranks at school. And yeah, so up to a year.
And that was important to you, school, wasn't it?
Yes, very important. Very important to me and my family.
And you had a little brother at the time?
Yes, I had and still have a brother. He's 8 years older than me, so he was a little baby. He was 2 months old when we got onto the plane to leave Iran. So he's lived most of his life overseas.
I think I've heard stories of you losing him in the playground in Malaysia.
Who told you that story? Actually, it was my mom that lost him. She got him, little 3-year-old boy, to come down and fetch me from my playground activities. And obviously he didn't know how the buttons worked, but I think my mom had a lot of faith in both of us and our mental capacities. So off he went into the big world of the apartment complex to find me, and he got lost. And we found him just waddling somewhere on one random floor, found by a random resident, and my mom never sent him to get me again.
I've had that experience. I lost Lulu one time, and I was never doing that again.
Yeah, I gotta keep an eye on Louis.
You ended up with an American accent after Malaysia?
Yes.
So you didn't just learn a language, you sort of absorbed a way of speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever feel caught between your identities, your Farsi, American English, and of course Aussie?
Yes. I mean, it sounds American to you, but I think my accent is a lot more multifaceted than that, because American people think I sound like a foreigner too. So to answer your question, yes, I do. I think my identity doesn't really fit into any single country or any single region. And no matter where I go, I do sound like a foreigner. Um, in Iran, in my own native language, I still have an accent. In English, I have an accent, and everywhere I go, it sounds foreign to that particular country that I'm in. So I think it is, um, it does create a conflicting identity picture for me, but I don't mind that because it's an identity that's bespoke to me, and my accent is unique to me. So
So if you were to strip that away, who is Violet?
Violet is many things. She is a fashion enthusiast. She is a curious person who aspires to be her personal best in every domain that's presented to her. And I would say, above all, Violet is a transparent person who knows what she is and what she stands for.
Medicine. When did that possibly first enter your mind to pursue a career in medicine?
Probably before I was born. Um, I come from an Iranian family and an Iranian culture, and education is deeply, deeply steeped in what we hold as significant. Um, and although my parents are both engineers, we have a lot of uncles and aunties and relatives in the family who are doctors. So it was always presented to me as an option. And I wasn't a big fan of doing physics for the rest of my life. So the next obvious choice was medicine. And I was always good at getting good grades. And it just seemed like a natural transition. And yeah, it worked out in the end.
You went to a select public school in Victoria, in Melbourne. What was it like to feel yourself labelled as being gifted?
Um, it was a bit flattering, and I think I really resonated with that as a child because I was very set on excelling. And, you know, in Iran, it's actually, gifted schools and selective schools are such a prominent feature. It's not like the public private divide that it is in Australia. In Iran, everybody wants to go to the public schools that are academically selective. So again, I think that was always an expectation in a way that was placed on me that I would try out for these schools and see how I go. So I never really had a second thought about it, and I went for it, and it resonated with me. And I think it was a good environment for me to be there with the competition and the other like-minded kids there.
And then you received a government supported position at Melbourne University. Where were you when you got that news, or received that news? Did you have your family around you? What was it like when that landed?
Yeah, so I remember exactly when I was getting my offer for my undergraduate position. All I wanted to do was to get into biomed at Melbourne Uni. You know, it was just everything I was working towards. And I was actually in LAX airport. I was there visiting my relatives with my mom and my brother, and we were coming back home. And I remember getting the email and just opening it in secret with my mom and my little brother next to me, and then telling them. And I remember that everyone was so happy, and my mom was crying and telling me that, you know, I made it and I'm going to be a doctor. And she didn't quite realize I had another 3 years of study and an entrance exam to study for before I could be on the way to getting the chance to study to get there. But she was very happy, and so was I.
Yeah, so it was 3 years of undergraduate, an honours degree in biomedicine,
Yeah.
and then 4 years of med school.
Yeah. 8 years plus.
It's a long tunnel. Was there ever a point where you thought, gee, is this really where you wanted to go?
Sometimes. I always loved to study, and I loved studying the content of medicine. But you're right, it's an unusually unusually long amount of time to study. And especially when you're a young woman and, you do watch other people outside of your study bubble getting to have life experiences a lot earlier on than you. For example, I gave up going on holidays and, you know, doing things like that in the hopes to study and sit entrance exams and get into medical school, and watching other people, you know, get engaged, get married, get houses while you're still studying, and you're in your 6th year of studying, you're in your 7th year of studying, and just watching everyone achieve things was a little bit difficult. But overall, I did enjoy the study, and I did excel at uni. So,
Would you say that studying is your happy place?
yeah, I would say it's one of them.
Or is it passing? Or is it doing the exams?
Well, it's the grind that makes the glory worth it. So I do think study is one of my happy places, and seeing that come to fruition in terms of passing and excelling in exams is another one of my happy places.
Yeah, I've seen you actually get excited at the thought of doing questions.
That's fun. You sit there and you think about it and you go over the options in your head and you pick something and hopefully you're right. And it's like such an adrenaline rush.
Yeah, I think some people would. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting for people to hear that point of view.
Mm.
Now, working as a doctor, tell me about the first time you were a senior doctor in the room dealing with a patient who's actually sick. So it's no longer in a textbook. You've got a sick person there, and we all, as doctors, you all know what a sick person is. What was that like?
Scary. Especially when you're a type of person who is scared of being wrong, or doing something that harms a person, or missing something when you could have picked up on it and actually helped them. I think the first time I experienced something like that was when I was the only doctor on site when I was doing a rehab unit, a rehab rotation. Back in Victoria, and often in the evenings, there would just be a singular resident that's responsible for the entire kind of hospital, including the met calls and whatever else that comes up along the way. And so, and that's actually where the spinal cord injury patients were kept too. So, often they would crash and have different problems come up along the way. And it was really scary because people would be coming to me, to ask me for answers and to ask me to make a decision, and to ask me to assess the patient. And that can be a really difficult thing for a young doctor to get used to.
Yeah, medicine is full of moments where the training doesn't prepare you for it. Patients who die, families who need comfort, uh, the time when you miss the diagnosis. Has there been a moment where your experience has changed the way you see the job?
Yes, actually, I have one example that still is burned in my memory. I was an intern at the time on a surgical rotation. Um, and there was a post-op patient who was usually on a blood thinner that we weren't supposed to give them. And the patient and, some other people were asking for it, and I was overwhelmed and, didn't really, spend the time to double check everything. And I gave her the blood thinner, and she ended up having a bleed. And I remember feeling so scared that entire time that was happening. It it really just sparked this deep fear in me that something I have done could have made a difference, and not in a good way, in someone's actual life. And in the end, she was fine because we picked up on it, and, she just got a washout in theater. But yeah, that was a scary moment for me. And it kind of made me think about the job as, not just, assessing people and prescribing things, but the things that you do, the buttons you click, the things you say okay to, and the things you don't say okay to. Um, they can all have really, really significant consequences for the people that you treat.
I think for many doctors, that fear never quite leaves them.
Yeah, it still hasn't left me. It just gets stronger by the day, actually, now that I'm a reg.
While you're doing your MD studies, you started coaching students into medical school. I think 38 people to date.
Yeah, something like that.
Why did you feel compelled to start doing that?
I really value good mentors. I myself, again, growing up in an Iranian household, was the recipient of a lot of tutoring. My extracurricular activities included going to Kumon since I was 11 years old.
For those people listening, what's Kumon?
Math tutoring. We would do sheets of math homework to a timer, and then you get a score, and that was my after school activities. And then all throughout high school, I went to math and science tutoring. And then all throughout uni, I got a lot of great coaching when I was sitting the GAMSAT, which is the entrance exam for medical school. And so education is just something that I've always been on the receiving end of. And it only felt natural for me to be the provider of education. To people who are hoping to accomplish and get into the same degrees that I've gotten into. And also, I just really enjoy the one-on-one act of teaching someone a concept, and watching them go from confused to confident, and then sharing in the joy with my students when they did achieve their goals and dreams. So that was something that was really valuable to me.
Yeah, you're essentially helping them climb the ladder that you're currently climbing.
Yeah, you owe it to the younger generations to educate them, as you would know, because you're so involved and passionate with educating the younger generation of doctors too.
Yeah, sure. Now, you were selected to be an intern support officer for 2025. I think there's a position that you were actually instrumental in creating. Tell me about that.
So the position, this was back when I was in Victoria, is a position for an outgoing intern doctor, so a young doctor that's just started out, to help the new incoming doctors how to navigate their first few weeks on the job as a doctor, and especially with ward calls, night shifts, and other complex situations with many clinical demands. Um, the reason I volunteered or applied to be selected for that role is, again, because I really feel I owe it to the younger generation and the incoming doctors to help them see some of the pitfalls and help them optimize themselves. And I think the main thing I wanted to impart onto those doctors was how to have a sense of urgency and discern clinically urgent tasks from those that are trivial. As an intern, you don't really have that perspective, and people come to you with all kinds of demands and all kinds of questions. And as a young doctor, as an intern myself, I felt this hesitation in saying no to some things and prioritizing more urgent ones. And I think that's not a skill that's taught to you by the textbooks and by the medical schools. They don't teach you to have discernment in, prioritizing urgency. So that was my main motivation. I really wanted to help the new interns feel a bit less stressed about all of the different things they get asked to do.
Yeah, I remember the feeling well.
Yeah.
It's just complete anxiety that every call was something about to go terribly wrong.
Yeah, but half the time it's like charting paracetamol.
Yeah. Farsi is your mother tongue.
Yes.
You write and speak it alongside English. When you switch to Farsi, does something switch inside you? Are you a different Violet, a different version of Violet?
A little bit, actually. It's really interesting. The language that you speak in does change your thoughts. Like, there are some thoughts that I have only in Farsi or Persian, and there are some thoughts that I have in English. For example, when doing the times tables, I always have to do it in Persian in my head because that's the language I learned it in when I was in first and second grade. I can't do it in English. It's a Farsi thing to me. So, yes, the answer is yes. there is a bit of a difference in Persian Violet and English Violet, and what thoughts you have and what idioms and sayings that you think up in your head when you're speaking that particular language. It's pretty interesting. I think other bilingual and multilingual people would relate and know what that feeling is.
I've heard your mother tease you that you're whitewashed. Given that you left Iran at the age of 8 and you went to international school in Malaysia, got somewhat of an American accent there, and then you've spent your adult life in Australia learning to be a doctor, there's possibly something to that. How does it land when your mum teases you like that?
I don't mind it. I think it's all just a bit of humor, and it's all in good fun. Um, I think my mom, understandably, is a lot more attached to Iran, having spent her whole life and, into her mid-30s in Iran. She often teases me with that when I'm unwilling to go back there for holidays and tourism. My mom is a lot more open to going back. I think not anymore, but historically she was actually open to going back there. She feels a very, very deep connection to the streets of Iran, to places where she's had memories. She went to university there. I'm taking my wedding photos at my university in Melbourne. So, I can imagine that she feels the same sentimental um, grip to the places in Iran. So I don't mind that she calls me that. I don't I don't think I'm whitewashed. I think I'm just a bit less attached to Iran as a land than my mom is, and I think that's what she means when she calls me that.
Now, you've won a genuinely impressive list of awards, not only your GAMSAT results and getting government scholarships or government placements, supported placements to medical school. You've also top grand rounds presentation at Austin Health 1 year, the Quest competition for hospital efficiency, mentoring excellence recognition. You were instrumental in a business case being developed that they created a new role at the Austin to support the interns coming in. But you've also won most fashionable medical student.
Yeah, true story.
Now, to be honest, out of all of them, which one was the one that meant the most to you?
Probably the fashion award, actually. Yeah, true story. At valedictory, they actually gave me a certificate that said most fashionable, and they presented it to me at my valedictory dinner graduating from medical school. And unfortunately, some people spilled some wine on it, so it's got this big stain on it now, which is why it's not framed up in our house along with the rest of the things.
We
Um,
can change that.
yeah, well, can print off a new one. But yeah, I felt really proud of that one. Um, because the way I see it is that everyone going to the medical school comes out with an MD, but I came out with an MD and a fashion prize. And, I think that's impressive in its own way.
I think many people share the same thoughts. Most people picture Iran from what they see in the news. It's front page of every newspaper you open right now, or certainly on the internet whenever you look at the news, and it's pretty confronting what's going on right now. What is something that you wish people understood about your home country and Persian culture?
The main thing is that the people of Iran are not represented by the people that rule us in government. Um, the people of Iran and the culture of Iran is one of the oldest civilizations on the planet, and we predate the current regime. We are a people that love poetry. We are a people that love education. We are a people with very strong family values. Um, and I think that doesn't get communicated in the media. And I think that's very sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd agree that doesn't get communicated.
No. But if you know an Iranian person, which you do, then you know what I'm talking about, because Iranians are some of the most hospitable, fun, and intelligent people that you can find.
Yes.
It's a good thing you agree.
Well, I remember the first time I met your mother and we went out to dinner to an Iranian restaurant, and
Dear
apart from
God.
being put on the spot and quizzed totally by your mother, we then, once dinner was served, the 12-year-old boy came out as the DJ playing Iranian music, and we all had to get up, dance, and the whole restaurant got up and danced.
Honestly, I didn't know that was going to happen. Otherwise, I might have thought twice about taking you and my mom out to dinner there if I had known it would turn into a nightclub post dinner. But that is what Iranians are actually like.
That was a very fond memory for me.
Yeah, we love to dance. We love hospitality. We love music, poetry, art. And yeah, you will often find Persian restaurants and Persian gatherings to, turn into dance parties after everyone's done with dinner.
Probably should be more of it.
Yeah.
Now, your parents, they're engineers.
Yeah.
Trained in Iran, and they've moved their family, you as well, and your brother, across 3 countries now. I know that they did it for opportunity, and particularly for your opportunities. Do you ever feel the weight of that sacrifice? Is there a sense of responsibility that weighs down on you?
For sure. Definitely. Especially coming from Iran and seeing what many, all of my compatriots are going through, many of whom are brighter than me and more intelligent than me, and they're just denied the same freedoms and the opportunities as I'm given just by virtue of being in a country like Australia. It does weigh on me. And I do think that the choices that I make, the decisions that I make, and what I do with my life has to do justice to the chances that I've been given in life and the privileges that I've been given in life, especially the privilege of getting to come here and be an Australian citizen. So it's something that I think about all of the time. And I do hope every day that I am doing justice to everything that's been given to me and that I'm a good representation of Iran and my community to everyone else that gets to meet me who may have never met an Iranian before in their lifetime.
Tell me, if you could go back and sit with your 8-year-old self, the little girl on that plane to Malaysia, not speaking any English, quite presumably, I think, worried about what's going to happen in Malaysia, the new chapter in your life, what would you want her to know?
I tell her to relax with the studying a little bit. I was very stressed about all of my school tests and exams at that age. I think that was my main concern. I wanted to know how I was going to do well in the school there, not knowing the language. So I would tell her just to chill out a little bit, enjoy being a child. And I would tell her that there is a lot of different changes that will come to her throughout her life. But with her discipline and tenacity and ability to learn and do her best to make good decisions for herself, her life is going to turn out pretty great, actually. So that's what I would say to her.
And what advice would you give to a young woman finishing school thinking of doing medicine?
Good luck. I would advise them to think about the reasons why they want to do medicine or whatever else it is that they want to do. I think doing medicine can be a very beautiful thing. It's a very rewarding career that deeply rewards you in the way you impact people on such a deep and personal level. And that cannot really be replicated in many other professions. But I do also advise people, especially people coming from culture similar to mine, who place such a extended emphasis on educational attainment and academic achievement, that's not necessarily the way to achieve happiness and good life outcomes. And I wouldn't advise anyone to pursue medicine solely for those reasons. You need to be able to do something that you can maintain for the rest of your life in some capacity. Yeah.
For many people thinking of going down that path, I've spoken to them, and they're put off by that thought of having to commit so much of their life to study. It just seems insurmountable. For someone that has actually done that, lived that path where you've committed most of your waking hours to study and the commitment to achieving academically, what would you say if they asked you if you had any regrets?
Um, I wouldn't say that I had regrets. Um, I'm also in a privileged position that I was able to do all of those years of study, completely supported by my parents, living with my parents until I got engaged and being fully supported by them in every capacity, such that study was my only job to do during the day that was expected of me. I think not everybody is fortunate to have those privileged circumstances. And so I think they would face different struggles to me. Um, Personally, I don't regret studying medicine. I think even beyond the career that it gives you, the insight that it gives you, the standing in society, it gives you a position of authority where you're respected and your voice can be heard. And when you speak on topics, people will actually stop and listen to you because of what your education and your achievements and your sacrifice represents to the community. So I think that's a very worthwhile thing to me. And I keep seeing that more and more every day as I get older.
Do you think you missed out on anything?
No, I don't think I missed out on anything because I don't think there's a set time limit to get things done. Um, I did sacrifice a lot during my younger years. I love travel, for example, and I didn't travel for 6 or 7 years, no major travel anyway. But I think there's time to make up for that now that I'm working and I'm a registrar, and you know I have I still have more exams to do, but it's more structured and it's not quite as intense as it was back then. Um, I don't think, yeah, I didn't really miss out. I've done all of the things I wanted to do, which was study, spend time with my friends, family, try new restaurants. I've done all of that. Yeah, I just think I could do with a bit more travel right now.
Good thing you like studying and passing exams.
Yeah.
Violet, you've brought this in to show us today.
Yes.
Tell me, why does this hold such a special place in your heart? Could you, just to people listening, explain what it is first?
Yeah, so this is a gift that I received from one of my patients that I knew as my time as a medical student and intern on the spinal cord unit.
To those who are not watching and are just listening, it's a small coin on a business card.
So it's a collectible coin, a Roman coin from the time of Marcus Aurelius. And it was gifted to me by a patient who unfortunately became a C4 quadriplegic, which means paralyzed in both arms and both legs after a motor vehicle accident. Um, I really resonated with this patient. They were having a lot of difficulty adjusting to their new unfortunate circumstances, and I would devote a lot of my time to going by their bedside to read Stoic philosophy to them, like meditations by Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, etc. And my patient gifted this to me one day and told me that I've had such a profound impact on his life and given him some hope and a renewed will to live when he had become so hopeless and in despair from his accident. And so I, I keep this and I cherish this as a marker of um, the impact that a doctor can have on the patients that they treat. Yeah.
Not just on their medical conditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you explain to the listeners the significance of being a C4 quadriplegic?
Yeah, so it's a severe disability, a disabling condition whereby, you go from overnight, you can go from a person who walks brushes their teeth, drives, goes to the gym, to then suddenly being dependent on other people for essentially absolutely everything. Grooming, dressing, showering oneself, mobility, in a wheelchair.
Because
So,
C4 means effectively he had no hand function either.
yeah, no hand function, no leg function, no wrist extension, flexion, just essentially dependent on other people for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Do you recall what caused his neck injury?
Yeah, it was a motor vehicle accident, a motorbike colliding with another vehicle. Yeah, so it was a trauma unit. We took care of all of the trauma cases of spinal cord injury in Victoria and Tasmania. So a lot of confronting stories and tragic incidents that affected mainly younger men.
And what was it in the meditations of Marcus Aurelius that connected with him?
Yeah, so a strong feature of Stoic philosophy is to focus on the things that you can control within your power and to distance yourself from your circumstances that are outside of your control. Um, and while, that's easy said and done, and, it's easy for us to read books and ideas, it's really confronting to see it in real life when a person can go from fully independent and functioning to severely disabled for the rest of their life. And I think that message of focusing on what you can control, which is your thoughts and actions, really resonated with him in his moment of, significant life change and significant adversity.
It's a cool story.
Yeah, thank you. It's a cool coin.
Violet, thank you for coming in today.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for
really,
having me.
really pretty cool talking to you.
Yeah, thanks. I like talking to you too.
You've been listening to Inside the Shoulder. I'm Kenneth Cutbush, and I've been talking today to Violet Sattari. If you've enjoyed the conversation as much as we have, please like, share, and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform. And again, thank you for listening.